Now, the heaviest migrant flows may have eased, but right across Europe, the issue of migration still threatens to destabilise much of the European Union. Croatia's president has met the British Prime Minister to discuss the various pressures that the continent is under, and they've agreed on the importance of ensuring that refugees claim asylum in the first safe country they reach. Hundreds of thousands of migrants and refugees have made their way into or through Central Europe, of course, in the last few years. The main entry points include Hungary, Croatia, Serbia and Romania. With me here in the studio is President Grabar-Kitarović of Croatia. President, thank you very much for coming in and joining us. I'm going to get on to migration or the refugee issue in just a moment. First, though, you met Theresa May.
Yes.
Obviously, a big issue for us. You're a newcomer to the EU. We're old hands. We're about to leave just as you've come in almost. We heard a few minutes ago there will not be a parliamentary vote. So we know Brexit is Brexit. Did you get a clear indication from Theresa May as to the route that she wants to take to get us out of Europe?
Well, first of all, I have to admit that we were all shocked by the results of the June vote. Of course, as unpleasantly surprised as we were, we do accept the will of the British people, of the citizens of the UK, to proceed with Brexit. At this point, it's very difficult to predict how negotiations will go on and how long they will take, but certainly...
Is that bothersome for you?
No, it's not bothersome for us. I think we need to use it as an opportunity, at least Croatia's side, to sort of modernize our relationship with the UK. I think that so far we've taken it for granted that we cooperate and work together in Brussels, and I think this is an opportunity to work through those negotiations on this association, not only to work out the arrangements within the EU and what happens to the UK, what happens to the remaining 27, but how we can work more closely together as two nations that share the same responsibilities for the future of Europe.
I suppose the results here are a warning shot for every EU country anyway, aren't they?
Yes, they were. They were a wake-up call, I would say, certainly about erosion of popular support, of the support of our citizens for the EU and the EU project.
And on top of that, for you, of course, we're discussing the refugee issue. It feels quite a long time ago now that the pictures we saw day in, day out, the really difficult scenes to cope with, have died down a long way. Nonetheless, there's every possibility there can be another surge of refugees heading your way. You were seen as one of the humane countries last time round, but the pressures are on you, just as they are on other countries, and indeed on your borders of countries like Hungary, who really are not going to accept many people using Croatia as any sort of transit route again.
Well, certainly there is a lot of pressure, and the Croatian citizens were, I would say, particularly humane in the whole process last year, because we remember the war in Croatia. We remember how our own displaced persons and refugees from Bosnia and from Croatia were taken care of by other countries. But what I spoke about with Prime Minister May yesterday, it's extremely important to determine the first safe countries of acceptance, because mostly last year I talked to a number of refugees or migrants who were passing through Croatia, even in Macedonia. Most of them, the bulk of them, are economic migrants. And of course we admit the right of every single person in this world to have the right to a better future.
But you've got to get tougher too in deciding who really is entitled to some sort of...
Exactly, because if we focus on the 1.2 million people who are here in the European Union, and just on the quota, the distribution of quota, it becomes an argument that is a centrifugal force that's tearing Europe apart. And we're forgetting people in Aleppo and other places who are truly suffering from war and destruction, and we need to help those people as well. So distinguishing between refugees who are seeking asylum and migrants, economic migrants, is very important.
Right, and that remains the case. I know we've got a couple of more things I do want to get through while we've got the time. You referred to the Balkan conflict. Of course, it's 20 years ago now. Nonetheless, as the referendum that Bosnia-Herzegovina has shown, there are still moves for it. The tectonic plates are still shifting, aren't they?
Absolutely.
And a desire for a secession is still there.
I am concerned. Croatia was lucky we were able to defend ourselves against an aggression and reintegrate our country, but Bosnia and Herzegovina does remain an issue for the international community, and I'm very worried about the recent referendum in Republika Srpska, which was illegal. It was contrary to the Dayton Peace Accords. You must remember that Bosnia and Herzegovina is a country that's not just based on the equality and the rights of every individual, but on the sovereign equality of all the three nations on the entire territory of Bosnia and Herzegovina, including Republika Srpska. So if you ethnically cleanse an entity and you prevent the return of the other nations, in this case notably Bosniaks and Croats, and you organize a referendum, which is the first step in a potential secessionist movement, that's very worrisome. And I urge my European and Euro-Atlantic colleagues to refocus in Bosnia and Herzegovina.
I've got to ask you one quick last question, which is about Russia. Obviously, you have great experience of working within NATO as Assistant Secretary General. When you hear Boris Johnson talking about Russia becoming a pariah state, do you think, yes, good, we've got to be strong, or what on earth is he saying?
No, we've got to be strong, and we have to build our resilience, and we have to stand for the respect of international law and the international order of states in the 21st century. But we cannot treat Russia as an adversary. If you treat someone as an adversary, there will soon become one. We need to work with Russia. We need to make it clear that we do not support actions in Ukraine and elsewhere. But we also need to carry on a dialogue on terrorism, on stopping the war in Syria and elsewhere, and how to resolve many global issues.
President, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.